All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call to order the regular Housing and Redevelopment Authority meeting of July 19th, 2021, and it is 7 p.m. Administrative Assistant Dubois, would you like to take the roll call?
Yes, thank you. Chair Supple?
Here.
Commissioner Breeze-Daniels?
Here.
Commissioner Onisard?
Here.
Commissioner Reagan-Gonzalez?
Here.
And Commissioner Sandel?
Here.
All members present, thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is the open forum. To participate live in the open forum to address the HRA on items not on the current agenda, you need to dial 612-861-0651. Now, we do not have anybody in the audience who wishes to speak, but I'll repeat the number and we'll wait a minute to see if someone wants to call in. 612-861-0651. Again, the number is 612-861-0651. Administrative Assistant Dubois, has anyone called in?
Chair Supple, we do not have any callers.
All right, thank you. If someone does call in later, we can come back to that. Let's move on to approval of the minutes.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Reagan-Gonzalez and seconded by Commissioner Sandel to approve the joint City Council, HRA, and Planning Commission work session minutes from July 21st and the regular HRA Authority minutes from July 21st. Are there any corrections or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we've approved the minutes. Next, we'll move on to approve the agenda.
Move approval. Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Sandel and seconded by Commissioner Reagan-Gonzalez to approve the agenda. Do we have any changes or questions? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we've approved the agenda. All right, next we're going to move on to the consent calendar. Executive Director Stark.
Thank you, Chair Supple. Tonight's consent calendar contains only one item, which would be acted upon by the HRA in a single motion without any further HRA discussion. If desired, however, any HRA commissioner may request that the item be removed from the consent calendar for more thorough discussion. Tonight's item is the consideration of an adjustment to the payment standard for the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. And again, that is the one item that makes up tonight's consent calendar.
All right, would someone like to move the consent calendar?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar. Is there any discussion? I would like to thank all the staff that's been working hard, and I thought it was really cool that the hours were adjusted so that it would be more convenient for people that were doing the program. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we've approved the consent calendar. Moving on, next we have consideration of a resolution approving the amendment, assignment, and assumption of the preliminary redevelopment agreement with Penn Investment LLC and Penn Investments Limited Partnership for a proposed multifamily housing development at 6501 Penn Avenue South. Mr. Stark.
Excuse me. Thank you, Chair Supple. Housing and Redevelopment Manager Julie Urban has been shepherding this project through the process, and so I'd ask her to provide the staff report.
Thank you. Chair Supple, members of the HRA, the development team of Boyd Clare Corporation and NHH Properties is proposing to redevelop the property at 6501 Penn Avenue and 6500 and 6504 Oliver Avenue South with 63 apartments, including 15 units for people with disabilities. The HRA owns the property at 6501 Penn and 6500 Oliver Avenue South, and you approved a preliminary redevelopment agreement with the developer back in 2020. So the developer is proposing to fund the project primarily with federal tax credits and other state and federal sources of funds. 100% of the units would be income restricted at a mix of income levels. The preliminary redevelopment agreement is set to expire on July 31st of 2021. And we established this deadline specifically to give both the HRA and the developer the option to terminate the agreement in the event that the developer did not submit an application for tax credit funding. An application was submitted last week by that July 15th deadline. Awards are expected in December of this year. So with the amendment, the agreement would be extended until January 31st of 2022, with the option under the executive director's discretion to extend that an additional 60 days if the project is awarded tax credits. In addition, the agreement would be assigned to Penn Investments Limited Partnership for purposes of the tax credit financing. So essentially, if they don't receive funding, then we get a couple of weeks to decide, what do we do with this development team before it expires on January 31st. But if we do get funding, then we have a little bit more time at John's discretion to sort of figure out our next steps and make sure we have a development agreement in place. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Since the developer was here last month, I decided not to ask them back, but I can certainly get answers from them if you need them.
Are there any questions? I know we've been receiving inquiries from the community about how the project is going, so I'm glad to see that it's moving forward, because I know there is a lot of interest.
Yes, and we appreciate everyone's patience. Putting together the capital stack for affordable housing is you need patience. It takes a while. So,
All right, thank you so much. Would someone like to go ahead?
I would like to make a motion to approve the resolution and the amendment, assignment, and assumption of the preliminary redevelopment agreement with Penn Investments LLC and Penn Investments Limited Partnership for proposed multifamily housing development at 6501 Penn Avenue South.
I'll second. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, well then, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, we've approved the resolution and authorized the execution. Thank you. Moving on, we have HRA discussion items. Are there any items that anyone wants to bring up? I did have a number of people had been writing to the members of the HRA inquiring about the off-ramp as the eviction moratorium expires and how people could get more help. I'm just wondering if staff could recap a little bit of that information that was shared.
Sure. So the eviction moratorium off-ramp is a little bit confusing, and there's actually a really nice graphic that Minnesota Housing has put out that Neil is going to put out on social media this week, so try to get that information out there. We have shared that information with our property managers, but we also want to make sure it gets out to tenants so they can see what the timelines are. I think one piece that's really important and good to see is that there is a 2-week notice requirement. So if you are going to, if someone is going to non-renew or evict someone, they do have to give notice so that people know, and notice if it's for non-payment of rent, how much they owe. But there are still plenty of resources available through the state. It has been a cumbersome process for folks, which is unfortunate. It's a lot of rent assistance to get out, a lot of money. People can get help with that process by calling 211, and there are various what they call navigator agencies that are available to help people in multiple languages. But we also are very fortunate that our service provider, Veep, is also available to people, so people can always call Veep who have that relationship with them. And actually what Veep is processing some applications themselves, but they are the ones that they get from Hennepin County, which is my understanding are the incomplete applications that are sitting in the system. And so rather than just ignoring those applications, the state and the county are trying to address those as well. So we encourage patience for folks. I know the landlords are frustrated and the tenants are frustrated too that it's taking so long, but your best bet is really to get an application in, because then you have much more time before you could be evicted for non-payment of rent. So, and Veep is another good source, because if really, they work really, really hard to make everyone eligible for that state assistance. But if there is some situation where you're not, VEEP might have some other funds that can help you, or maybe they can let you go to get more groceries than they might normally so that you can free up other funds for rent. So just really encourage both of those. It's Rent Help MN is the website. It's really the website itself is very nice. I think it's the portal that is causing some grief for folks, and it's unfortunate. I know they're working on it, and I've reached out to the state, and and then also on there is more information on that eviction moratorium and what your rights are as a tenant. And people should just always they can call us. We aren't experts, but we can find the information too if they really have questions.
Thank you. It's good to know that they're helping people with the incomplete applications so that the bureaucracy doesn't hold somebody up. Are there any other discussion items?
I should add too that we have been reaching out to some of our larger buildings, and a lot of our property managers, they're going door to door. They're seeking out tenants that owe money and really offering their office computers, and just several of them are really going above and beyond, and we really appreciate that from our landlords.
That's good to hear. Thank you. All right, next we'll move on to the Executive Director's report. Executive Director Stark.
Thank you, Chair Supple. At last month's meeting, I shared with you that there was we were optimistic that legislation would get approved, that it seemed to be an arrangement was agreed to. It ultimately was approved. I'm happy to report to you. And this relates to the TIF pooled tax increment financing that we receive. And just a refresher, in a TIF district, the Minnesota state statutes allow us to retain up to 10% for administrative costs that really pays staff salaries and for Ellers and attorney costs associated with the TIF districts. But they also allow us to collect up to 15% of the increment in a district to be used elsewhere in the community. And many of our TIF districts, not all, but many, have this 15%. But the criteria that we had to meet in order to use that was very confining. It was very strict. And so we went to the legislature with a request to allow us to transfer that pooled TIF into our Affordable Housing Trust Fund to spend it according to those trust fund rules. And what was approved was kind of a hybrid. They are allowing us to move that to our Affordable Housing Trust Fund, but we can only use, we cannot use the money for rent assistance or down payment assistance. Those were the two things we can't use it for. We can use it for grants or loans or loan guarantees for the development of affordable housing, the rehabilitation of affordable housing, or the financing of such housing. So it's good news. And we plan on this fall putting together kind of a strategy for how to use our pooled TIF funds. If you recall, we do have a fair amount banked away, and we're expecting to collect a fair amount in the next few years. The special legislation kind of sunsets in 2026, but that timing really works fairly well for us because some of our bigger TIF districts that collect pooling will also terminate about that same time frame. So again, happy that that occurred. And then next month, just giving you a preview, we will be making our budget presentation for the revised 2021 budget and the proposed 2022 budget. So if you have any wish list items, it might be too late, but give me a call. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Executive Director Stark? All right, go ahead, Commissioner Regan-Gonzalez.
I just want to say I'm so excited for this legislative change and flexibility. It feels like it just comes at the right time. There's so much pressure on our housing and our affordable housing. And even though it's still, not everything we wanted, it still gives us plenty of resources to do a lot of affordable housing. So I'm just so thankful. I'm super excited. And I think that we can be a model for other cities and to request the same. Maybe this can be expanded based on what we see in Richfield to other communities in Minnesota. But I just feel, given all the pressures that we had before COVID and then exacerbated by COVID, unfortunately, our housing crisis, I think this couldn't come at a better time. And I'm so thankful and excited for this opportunity.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, Commissioner Sandell.
Thank you. I was just interested, were there any other cities that joined you in pushing for this?
Yes, Minnetonka and St. Louis Park.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so they got it too?
Yes. And we worked collaboratively with both of those. Julie and I are both very well acquainted with their staffs, and this is something we've been discussing with their staffs for 18 months to 2 years.
Super. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you for all the work you guys did on it. All right, we'll move on to claims.
So moved?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the claims. Are there any questions?
Do we have them to sign?
Oh, that's interesting. Are they under, the one I have in here is not the claims that we normally sign, so I don't know where they are. All right, we'll see if they're anywhere.
Well, the good news is they've been approved, and so if there's something wrong with these, we can track folks down and get signatures at a later time.
Yeah, we've seen them all for the viewing public. We have seen the claims because they were sent to us by email. Aha, we have found the report. So we can go ahead and sign it. All right, so all in favor of approving claims, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we've approved the claims. Seeing no other business before us, we stand for adjournment.